Mason. I'm the CEO and founder of the Impact Lounge. I'm really glad you guys are all here. Thank you for making time to come to the Impact Lounge. We do hope you'll stay, eat a lot of snacks, drink a lot of coffee, and then tonight we will be having drinks and cocktails in our lounge around 5:30-ish, I think. Somewhere around there. It's on the board. We welcome you to stay for that. We'll also have something very cool in the main theater, panels all day, and that continues tomorrow too. So welcome you to all of that. But today, we are talking about something that I am super interested in and totally intrigued by, which is verticals, microdramas, online shows, all the different terms that I'm having to learn because it's a brave new world out there. It's like internet in the early 90s. Internet in the early 90s, anybody? Maybe one person. Thank God. I brought the arthritis cream. I've got the ibuprofen for us. Okay, but to welcome up my panel, if you want to pop up that title slide, we have folks from a vertical, is it called Vertical Talent Agency? Regular Talent Agency with a vertical department, which is very cool. So Tina Randolph, I still have not gotten your last name. Contagenis, here we go, who's the president and founder of Eris Talent Agency. Joining with her is Anita Vasquez-McCorn, talent agent at Eris Talent Agency, and Adam Faze, producer and CEO of Gymnasium. Woo! Yes, grab that, make sure it's on. Make sure you push that all the way up. All right. Okay, I am excited. First of all, I would love to start with definitions. We are defining a space, and I love that. And somebody even mentioned Oregon Trail and dysentery today, and I was like, yes! For all you young people that don't know that reference, it's actually funny, and it is not actually about dysentery. Okay, so I would love to know, maybe I will start with you, Tina, on a definition of a microdrama.
Okay, so this is that crazy new space that we see ads on TikTok. You'll get something, it'll look like a soap opera gone bad. Keeping it real. Those are microdramas. They're basically full-length movies, 115 pages, chopped up into 60, 58 episodes that are about 1.5 minutes long. They're monetized, and the business itself did, I think the number is $11 billion in 2025, and it's slated for more next year, a lot more.
I was going to say, so it's a dying area. Okay, Adam, you have done a show. I believe that's the right word, but correct me if I'm wrong. Talk about what a show is, TikTok show.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Faze. I run a company called Gymnasium. We make what's called social shows, and these are vertical shows that live on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. They're usually around 1.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes in length, primarily in the unscripted world. And so something we're going to show you an episode of later. Our biggest show right now is called Girl Room. It's where we investigate really disgusting women's bedrooms, and then we renovate them with Amazon Prime. It's sort of like Room Raiders meets Extreme Home Makeover. But our shows are usually made in partnership with a brand or a nonprofit partner or someone who comes along the ride with us. These are platforms that do not pay you for viewership. My company has, I think, produced over 1.5 billion views in the last 3 years organically in these platforms, and yet I think we've been paid $15,000 by TikTok. So you do have to find a way to monetize them, and for us, it's been with brands.
Okay, that's good to know. So audience big, monetization maybe, but market huge. So that's an interesting triangulation, especially for any of you that did follow early.com, very similar. Huge audience, monetization questionable, market enormous. So Anita, now you're working with, and I want to get back much more into the shows, but to bring you in, you're working with talent. How do you have talent that is only for, and I'll probably be corrected this whole time, you guys, whether I mix up vertical microdrama show, feel free to correct. Do you have talent that only works in the vertical space? And is that separate? Can they cross over?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of preface that. So Eris Talent Agency, we are a traditional talent agency, first and foremost. And but we started to see this new emerging market, and this is going back like 3 years ago. Like nobody knew what it was, including us. Slowly but surely, we started getting reached out about some of the talent on our roster. And then we started to kind of figure out what this was. We were a little bit tentative. And even nowadays, people are very tentative about it. But we quickly saw the need for, being able to work with casting directors and to cast some of these, we do have like a pretty good talent pool. Like we were saying, like we were the first agency to ever have a dedicated vertical department. And at first we kind of did have it segregated. But these actors are amazing. Some of these actors are clocking like thousands of hours on set. Some of these people are stars in their own right in this genre. And we are now finally starting to see it cross over into traditional horizontal TV and film, which is extremely exciting because in the very beginning, there was a lot of naysayers, both with, even with the agency, as far as, getting feedback from other people, like, your agency shouldn't rep these people, shouldn't have anything to do with these people. A lot of the actors were told, like, don't do it, it's going to ruin your career. So I'm sure we're going to get into so much more of this in a little while, but it's really exciting where the space is heading, and even where it's been and how much the space is changing just even in the last couple months.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just hearing you say that, like, ooh, you're going to ruin your career, doesn't that sound like gatekeepers and velvet ropes? All the things that we're against here at the Impact Lounge, because that can keep out new directions, new people, new voices, new stories. Maybe a mid-40s to 50s person might want to be involved in these things.
One thing I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I think a majority of sound stages in LA are being used by microdramas and not television or movies anymore.
There's 50 a day filming on any given day in Los Angeles, and then there's a good handful in New York and Atlanta, and then Canada as well. But yeah,
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, LA should be embracing this then, because the last I knew, sound studios were being turned into pickleball courts.
Well, I mean, everyone is quickly realizing that there is so much money to be made in this space, and so yeah, everyone has realized it. It is in, well, not everyone, but a lot of some of the, like, even legacy casting directors are now casting these. There's a lot of different little things that are legitimizing the space, but yeah, I mean. There is a lot going on in Los Angeles and New York City, and a little tiny bit it's spilling over into Atlanta, and they're also being filmed in other countries, and our talent is being sent to other countries to do this as well. So.
Wow. I mean, this sounds exciting. I love things that are exciting and growing. Yeah.
just to put it in perspective, so we have about 75 talent on our roster vertically. They're also on our other roster, but in terms of auditions in the vertical space, we're getting between 500 and 1,000 a week.
Wow.
For 75 people. Like, we're talking, most of these people have like 10 to 15 auditions a week.
Wow. I mean,
And multiple bookings. I had one girl yesterday while I'm at Sundance, 3 bookings at the same time.
Yay.
And this happens all the time. Like, it's all the time that the organization has to be so meticulous because it's so insane.
I mean, the volume is overwhelming. This is what I am thrilled about, is that so many times when there's disruption, there is opportunity, there is openings, and I would love to tell, I'm all about stories. When I reached out to Adam blindly on LinkedIn, I think it was about a year ago, is that right? Because I saw an article about him, and I was like, this is fascinating. And Adam, I would love for you to tell your story, if you don't mind, about the taxi story.
Absolutely. Also, it's full circle because it's coming back. I grew up in LA, and I think, like all of us here, was obsessed with making movies and TV shows. The only thing I ever wanted to do my entire life. I didn't go to college, was kind of working for producers straight out of high school, working on set, getting yelled at on set, club promoting at night to make money so I could afford to work on set. And it wasn't until COVID that all of a sudden my screen time doubled, and I'm really enjoying spending time watching TikTok and being on Instagram and watching YouTube. And I kind of felt myself, this formerly pretentious film bro, slowly turn into a kid that was obsessed with TikTok. And I kind of had this feeling of like, if TikTok is turning into my television, and I grew up watching movies and TV, I feel like everyone younger than me that maybe doesn't have that same relationship with it probably feels the same way about TikTok. And so there was a part for me where I think I finally started realizing that maybe a big part of my interest in the entertainment industry in the first place was just being at the center of pop culture and being able to entertain so many people at the same time. And it was starting to feel like the traditional industry was not going to give me that same itch. And I wanted to figure out, was there a way to sort of protect storytelling on these types of platforms? And so when I looked at the way that I use TikTok and just scrolling between content, I thought, hey, this kind of reminds me of like TV before the days of DVR, where, you know, you might not have seen every single episode of Friends, but if you catch any episode, you probably have enough context to understand what's going on and what are these sort of repeatable formats you can go do, specifically in the unscripted space. And so at that point, I was working for a digital company, at a very small budget to sort of experiment with this. And I sat a new friend of mine down who I just thought was like the greatest person on earth, and I really just saw this huge star power in him. And his name's Kareem Rama. If you've ever seen Subway Takes Now, that's his show on Instagram and TikTok. But I said to him, I was like, look, I want to make these shows for TikTok. Do you have any ideas? And he goes, there's one idea I've pitched to like every streamer for the last 5 years and no one's ever wanted it. I'm like, what is it? He's like, I've always wanted to hail a cab in New York and tell the driver, take me to your favorite place and keep the meter running while we spend the day with each other. I'm like, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. And he's like, okay, what's the next step? I'm like, okay, tomorrow we're gonna go film it. He's like, what are you talking about? We're like, we're gonna meet on this corner and we're just gonna hail a cab and we're gonna see what happens. So of course it takes like 8 cabs driving by for us to finally get someone to say yes. And we end up with this driver, Abdur, and he's telling us the story that he supports his family of 8 back home in Pakistan. He lives with 4 other taxi drivers. His life is sort of devoted to Islam. He took us to this Pakistani restaurant in the Bronx. We're having this amazing conversation with him. He ends up telling Kareem he loves him at the end of the episode. And, you know, all of a sudden at the end of the day, we're sitting here with like 4 hours of footage. And we're like, okay, well, shit. Now we got to figure out how to make a 90-second video out of this. And at this point, we had never posted anything on TikTok ever. And so we still had this interest in doing something there, but we still were really scared what was going to happen next. And so launched a fresh account, called to keep the meter running, finally got it down to like 2.5 minutes long. And we just posted the first video, just seeing what was going to happen with it. And, you know, having 0 followers, we didn't really expect much. And the next morning, Kareem walks into the bodega across the street and someone taps him on the shoulder and is like, man, I love your show. When's the next episode coming out? And he's like, literally like looks around. He's like, who my show? Like, also, even hearing someone call it a show, he's like, keep the meter running. It's like a brilliant idea. I'd love the episode. I can't wait for the next one. And he takes out his phone and the episode had 1.2 million views. And I think the crazier thing was 99% of those views were in New York City. And so overnight we had like created this local television hit. And that show, since we've grown to 750,000 followers across the 2 platforms, and we're bringing it back now as a full-length YouTube show. So not a social show anymore, but as like a full half hour. And we just shot the first episode last week in the cold, so.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that cool? Give it up for Adam. I think that is really cool. I love that because it shows that good ideas still can work. And I think for anyone who's thinking, like, I have a great idea, take out your phone, make it work. Like I was in Hollywood in the early 90s, mid-90s, and that was not the case. You had to go through a lot of people that you didn't know if you're from Idaho Falls, Idaho, to try to get a show made. And we are gonna show a clip of a show in a minute. But what I would love to ask too is, to our talent agency folks, are you seeing your folks pitch you shows as well? Is that a part of this where your talent is saying, hey, I've got a show? And if so, what are the criteria you look for to find like an Adam Faze?
So we are focused on the microdrama space because we are with our sister company, Eris Entertainment. That's one of our executives right there. We are producing a slate of 80 to 90 of these in conjunction with a couple of the apps. So we're actively looking for that. But what we have found is that a lot of these actors who film so many of these microdramas, they have their own ideas because some of the original ones had a lot of tropes in them that people didn't like. A lot of slapping women in the first 10, seriously.
Jeez. Let's take that out of the plot line, everyone who's a writer, director. Can we just remove?
Yeah. But it's crazy because those ones have, 500 million views.
Yep.
500 million views. And that's a popular one. But as they have moved along, they're all very... not all of them, but a lot of them are very sexual, but there's no nudity. So everything is implied, sometimes very implied. So a lot of these people who've been in so many of them and have to repeat the same role, CEO again, right? They just keep playing the same thing. They've said now, hey, we want to write a Yellowstone version of this. And as long as you don't vary too far away from what sells, because your audience is middle-aged women in the Midwest, 30 to, well, not middle-aged, all of them, 30 to 60 that are sitting, at home a lot of the day, and they're just watching this stuff. They're the romance novel women, and they're the ones who are buying all of this up. So you have to kind of stick with what's going to work. But to that, to answer your question, we're looking for things that go above and beyond, but still keep with the basic love story. Everybody wants a love story. Not everyone has to be, but that's what sells.
Interesting.
I just wanted to piggyback on that. So the space is expanding a little bit, though, as well. So there's different types of production companies that were traditionally doing these. Like 3 years back, it was a lot of the Asian companies that were coming over, and even some talent that was going over to Asia. So there is a level of elevation that a lot of these American companies that are now jumping into the space are really looking to do, and they are slowly but surely kind of edging out into like some of the action stuff. Like there's some like sports stuff, like maybe to kind of bring in the males to watch some of these, and even like some young adult stuff, and like even like some family type stuff. Yeah. So I mean, those ones are not as popular, but I think everyone's just kind of like finding their footing and introducing all of these other genres. And so that's what I think is really exciting.
Yeah, well, that's what I think from an emerging market, an emerging field, which this is, you usually see like the leap ahead of the first adoption. Then you see the next wave of now this adoption. Then you start to see the maturation of the field. And that's where I'd be interested is, what's that next? Because we know men look at their phones. So it's like, okay, what is that gonna what does that look like as that develops, as that becomes something that is for this group, et cetera, et cetera? But you have to break out first. But maybe this is a time to show one of your shows, if we don't mind, and if my AV feels good about showing it. And maybe before you do, and you can cue them, maybe just give a little bit of what we're going to see.
So this is the first episode of our show, Girl Room, that we premiered back in November. A little context, this started with a show we made called Boy Room. Which was similar format, but that story came from a comedian we found in a comedy club in New York, who just had this idea of anytime I've had a one night stand with a guy, all I've wanted to do was investigate his bedroom, and so it started actually as something that we would end every episode with a like fake AI renovation, saying if we had the budget, what we would do is get you a duvet cover, and we would get you two curtains that are the same size. You can actually block the sunlight. But as a result, our audience would be in the comments being like, please partner with a brand. All we want to do is see you guys renovate these rooms. And so that's when we started partnering with Amazon Prime on Boy Room. And we ended up co-creating this show with Amazon Prime. And so it's hosted by Owen Thiel, who's in Adults and FX and Overcompensating, and he's blowing up right now. But this was the first episode we premiered back in November.
Okay.
What is that? What is that? Is that a razor?
You never know who's gonna come over and you need a quick shave,
Ronnie is a little grimy.
I'm not dirty. I'm a catch.
She has a contagious energy.
Right. And left. And right.
And there's also things in this room that are probably actually contagious.
I went to Disneyland.
How long ago?
It's March.
The walls are completely bare, and everything is stored under the bed.
This is a good army crawl here. Da 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 da. We have Nespresso pods.
What?
Oh, we have my hula hoops. I'm really good at hula hooping. You want to see?
I would love to. I'm gonna pee. I'm fully gonna pee. Do your neighbors hate you?
The neighbors love me. I told you I'm friends with Chris, who helps me with self-tapes.
The drawers in her nightstand are completely full with random shit.
Birth control, AAA insurance. This is my citizenship certificate. I'm a U.S. citizen.
And she's printed out tons of memes.
Britney survived 2007. You can handle today.
I love that.
Okay, moving on. Mosquito lives.
Yeah.
I hate being here.
In this room.
Yes.
What would make you like being here?
I would love the robot that goes under spaces and cleans everything. I just wish the robot also had limbs and arms and it could grab things and put them
So you want a housekeeper? Ronnie's so lively, but her room was so bare. So I went on Prime, thank you, to find things that would match her personality. Anything from a foot massager to a mosquito killer. We brought life to her walls and we gave her an organizational system. She's a dirty girl.
I'm really excited.
Gut reaction?
It's like I'm waiting for a text from my crush. It's like I sent a risky text and now I'm like, ooh.
Open that door!
Oh my goodness!
She's very happy. Ronnie was so excited.
Wow, I have a headboard!
You have a headboard! She loved it so much that it was scary at a certain point.
Ah! I see a foot massager! This is vodka in the making.
I got her a ring light and some backdrops for her self-taping station.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Geyer, 27 years old, based in LA, not Union. This is so nice. I'm gonna be so popular too. Everybody's gonna wanna come shoot here. Mosquito lives! I'm an American citizen. Caw-caw!
Give it up for Ronnie.
It's fun. Maybe she's gonna walk away with an agent today. You never know.
I was going to say, I'm just glad she has hygiene now. I'm very excited about that. Wow. Maybe just make her shower as well.
I mean, it's funny. Also, people always think that these were like totally scripted, and I was like, you can't write these people. I don't know how you would even think of these people. We found most of the guests on this show from Craigslist, honestly.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that was amazing. That really. God, I want to meet that girl. Okay, so I'm going to go back to talent agents for a second. So thinking about talent agents, we probably have a lot of talent in the room. We probably have filmmakers, producers. What are some next steps for them? What if some folks in this room want to get involved in micro dramas, in verticals? What would be some of the first steps they should take?
Well, I think that you should definitely go and take a look at some of these platforms and take a look at how the model works. And, like, what would be the best place for them to jump?
Well, I would definitely go to an app like Real Short, which is the #1 app in that space. And if you look in the entertainment section of your phone, it's one of the top 5 apps downloaded at all times. If you look in like the top 10 downloaded entertainment apps, you'll see 3 or 4 of these. They are very popular, and even though most people don't know about them. So I would say start there if you want to act in them and learn the acting style, because it's a different acting style. Like even, we'll coach our clients sometimes. They'll do a self-tape and they'll be grounded and really good. And I'm like, you're too good for, you've got to be just like, I can't believe you did that. Like, it's really over the top.
Soap opera.
And if you're a writer, like we have one of the incredible showrunners of a major show, and he came to us, he's like, okay, I'm ready to write a microdrama. I'm like, okay, try it. And he tried it, and I'm like, not even close. You've got to do a cliffhanger every minute and a half. You have to know when that paywall is going to hit, because you get 10 episodes for free, and then right around there, and then you hit that paywall, and you've got to, at that point, pay or sit and watch an ad after every minute and a half episode, which is really tedious because I've done that because I refuse to pay sometimes. But so I would learn how that is and really get to know it, so that because you get one chance really to show it.
And if you're an actor, find an agency that supports this, because there are a lot of agencies or management firms that don't support this. And I will tell you that we have some talent that is pulling in, you guys won't believe this, but pulling in tens of thousands of dollars a month. And when I say that, I'm not talking about $10,000 or $20,000. It's like,
Like 30 to 50K, and we have a bunch of actors that are able to do this.
I think I just became an actor in a microdrama. Isn't that interesting? Who wants to take over Impact Lounge? You'll see me in Ronnie's room. That is awesome.
And just constant and consistent work. Like Tina was saying earlier, we had one of our actors last night, we had 3 different people coming at us for her, and I had like multiple people coming at me for like 2 of our guys. And, we have some people that are top of the food chain. They're getting famous, with this, and building leverage, building fan bases, like really amazing fan bases. And they're like crazy fans. Like it's just incredible. But then we also are always cycling in like the up and coming people that we find, people that we see, people that have, maybe the right look. And we were just trying to say, hey, Adam.
CEO billionaire.
Hey, Adam. Well, speaking of hey, Adam. So yours is a little different. So microdramas, I'm getting very regimented, very clear for writers, very much like a first act, second act, but this is act. Whereas show is a show. I mean, we just watched a reality show, which I was completely into. And I wanted to see what was going to come out of that bed, man. I mean, AAA insurance and birth control. I'm like, what else is in there? So how do you think of shows? And what's next in your brain, or already on your slate for shows you're going to do next?
So I would say anytime we've made a show, it's always really started with the talent first. It's usually their idea, and it's about finding the right person. You're like, you've really just got this undeniable star power. There's something we want to go make with you. And then it's sort of filtering through the ideas and finding the one that really resonates. But I would say like our secret of always finding, in my opinion, the best talent has just been, who do we want to be best friends with? Like genuinely, if I feel like I want to keep hanging out with this person, I think everyone else will too. And that's always been like the best rule of just cracking great talent. You know, I've watched Kareem go from hailing that cab on 7th and 24th to becoming a massive celebrity. I literally can't think of a more famous person in New York at this point than Kareem Rama, just because Subway Takes is like the biggest short form show there is, and it's such a New York centric show. Rachel Coster, who pitched Boy Room originally, I saw her go from being a comedian with 2,000 followers on Instagram to being on Variety's Young Hollywood less than 6 months, just from being on one of these shows. And so, you know, it's a lot of times it's talent first. I think the fun part now is trying to figure out how do we kind of scale from here. I'm really excited about starting to do more long form, meaning like 7 to 12 minute YouTube shows. And also even more excited about what's happening in sort of the live streaming space right now. Had the opportunity to work with this live streamer, iShowSpeed, last fall, who, if you don't know him, don't feel weird because he's 20 and mostly on young men's feeds, but he's 160 million followers. And he's known for going on these live tours of countries. And he got really famous last year for going on tour of China, which was getting a lot of attention. China, actually in one of their biggest newspapers, said it was the most successful propaganda campaign of all time. And he decided he wanted to do a live stream tour of the United States this fall. And it was a 35-day straight, 24 hours a day live stream where he was filming himself sleeping, but otherwise he was waking up in a different city every single day and wanting to have the best day ever. So producing that mostly meant working with police departments to make sure that he didn't burn the city down, nor his fans. In fact, we had 250 NYPD officers working with us to make sure that nothing happened that was not planned. But what's crazy about that is it's completely live. At any given point, you have about 100,000 live viewers watching concurrently, which might not sound like a lot, but it really is on these digital platforms. But to put it into scale, I think there's a reason why live streaming is becoming so prevalent right now, and it's because every platform has suddenly turned into a short-form video platform, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or X. And as a result, we're all spending so many more hours a day consuming that content. And I think the way that even I produce these shows, where it takes us weeks to work on one of these episodes, it's not enough for the amount of content that these algorithms desperately crave. And so when you do really start thinking about what can satisfy that craving, there's two answers. Unfortunately, one is AI content and the other is live streaming, because when someone's live for 8, 10, 24 hours, there's thousands of clips that come out of that. So again, just remember, Speed, any given point when he's live, has about 100,000 concurrent viewers. The clips, where the majority of the audience come from, he gets 1 billion views organically a day. So that's a space I'm very excited by and curious to see how you can kind of bring formats to life there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the scale of this is mind-boggling. That's why I'm fascinated by it.
One thing I'll actually just add there to give an example too of like I think some of the fandom that exists in this space. There was a moment on the tour where Speed was in Cleveland, Ohio. He's like in a diner. And as a result of being live, and especially being like the biggest role model for young people, I mean, at any given point, there's about 2,000 people in person who are following us around from location to location. They know where he is, and they want to see their hero in real life. And so at one point, he's in a diner in Cleveland, Ohio. There's sort of like a glass, wall like this, bunch of kids outside. He goes to the inside just to like of the door just to see the crowd outside. And one of the kids that's standing right outside the glass is so excited to see him that he bashes his head through the glass window, literally like World War Z. So it's hard to see this reaction from young people and their sort of obsession with someone that they watch on these platforms and not be like, oh, that's the future of everything.
Yeah, hopefully not head bashing, but yes. Other than that, I would agree. But that shows the fervent fan base.
You know what? I wanted to kind of actually point out that like when these kind of first started coming out, with this genre, it was like 3 years ago. I started doing a lot of research, and I started seeing a lot of articles that talks about like the younger generations and how they consume entertainment is very different than my generation, and so I think that's another reason why like all of us are tapping into this space. And I don't see that it's taking away from traditional film and TV. I see it as an addition to, and I think if everyone kind of looks at it that way instead of feeling a little threatened by it or like like it's kind of sad, like all of the the Gen Z and Gen Alpha consuming up to 85% of their entertainment media on their cell phones.
Even watching them while they're watching a Netflix show.
Yes. Yeah, there was...
You have kids, you've seen that, I'm sure.
There was just an article that came out like 2 days ago, a really big article with two very prominent A-list producers and actors, and they were talking about how they had to, for a feature film, they had to drop the plot 4 different times. in one feature because everyone is, they're using their cell phones at the same time.
Well, and that's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I forget what they were just on. That's exactly what they said. They had to continue to drop the plot, which is changing how you write films, which is also really interesting. So I do want to bring it back. One last question, then we'll go to Q&A. I definitely want to hear questions. But I'm going to bring it back to social impact, because that's why we're here, social impact. And I write rom-coms, and so I'm always sneaking in some messages. Rom-com save the world. 4 o'clock on Sunday, people. I'm going to have heart-shaped suckers. There will be balloons. There may be hot chocolate. You need to be there. But bringing it back to social impact, how can we use any of these formats to potentially change the world for good? If someone wanted to do that, what might be a piece of advice, or have you seen this happen? Because we're in the Impact Lounge, and then we'll go to Q&A.
Well, I'm someone who, I live with this feeling in my head that knowing that these platforms are literally information, entertainment for the entire planet at this point. You have two options. One is you can put your head in the sand and say, well, I don't want to be on these platforms and I hate them. But otherwise, we're watching the impact that it's having on our country right now. So I feel like I have a moral responsibility to spend as much time as humanly possible filling these platforms with as much informational, educational content as humanly possible, finding good role models for young people. I'm very worried about young people. And I think, at the same time, that's not necessarily enough, because I do think these platforms are actually, they are the problem. And I think a lot of this goes to finding ways to regulate them where you can and banning them on school campuses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the social impact side is huge. We're actually, funnily enough, working with the Doris Duke Foundation on a project right now. But we're also working with another foundation on a Gen Z unemployment crisis show. We have a real toll-free number, 1-877-UNEMPLOYED, and we're going to have a real unemployed hotline for young people to call in. And we have an NYU professor who's going to sort of guide them through the process and give them tough love when they need it, but at the same time help them get to finding a job. So I think it's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And I like that you said that about the organization, because I often say with Impact Lounge, I believe in nonprofit product placement. One of the easiest things you could do if you're making a film is just drop a line about a nonprofit or put it at the end credits with a QR code. And I know that's a teeny bit of money, but that's a teeny bit of money. And we've been talking to Crisis Text Line, because they were at our event at the United Nations. And I said, what if a popcorn bucket, when there's triggering content, had a trigger warning sponsor, and just put a QR code for Crisis Text Line on a popcorn bucket? That would be simple. You don't have to do a huge impact campaign. You could just do something small. So I think that is also because they're already on their phone. And I didn't realize Gen Z texts therapy. I'm Gen
You're
X.
texting ChatGPT therapy.
Yeah, that's even scarier. Maybe I should try that, though. They'd be like, Heather, you're right, and you didn't have any childhood trauma at all, and everything you do is wonderful. Okay, but how about you guys for social impact content? Any way to do that, or have you seen someone do that?
Well, I've seen it evolve because, like we were talking about, this is going to sound weird. So microdramas are escapism. They're really meant for, escaping reality. That's why they are so over the top. But even these tropes of these men that are beating the women, which we have a lot of great guys are like, I won't do beating women. Okay, that's awesome. But I will say that every man who beats a woman on this has a redemption. At least there's that. This is a stretch here because this is escapism. But the characters do evolve and learn from their mistakes from whatever happens. And we are seeing
they die a horrible death at the end. So it's a happy ending.
No, but they walk away alone. They don't end up with the woman. They don't that is there in terms of, what you would ideally want to happen to someone who beat women. Like you wouldn't like.
Well, what I would like to ideally happen is a whole other storyline.
But it kind of goes that way, Maybe they end up in jail. Maybe they end up, but they feel bad at least. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's all I got.
I think I need to talk about a storyline I may have in mind. What about you?
Well, so I just think I'm looking to the future. These are getting more and more popular. There are more creators getting into the space as far as writers and producers. I'm so excited. There's even like big entities like Disney did a partnership with DramaBox. Sony is casting, or Sony is now doing verticals, and Fox exactly. And so there are some of these bigger entities that are coming online, and I'm very hopeful that that the storylines are going to start to shift.
Yeah, no, but that's great, and I'm glad that there's movements. It feels like in those directions, and your commitment to it. So with that, I think we have about 15 or so minutes for questions. I see one in the back. I might try to run some interference on mics, but you also might have to. I bet there are people here.
Thank you. Hi, thank you so much for being here. I've been hearing rumor about talent agencies starting to bring on intimacy coordinators and mental health coordinators because they're constantly being used on these sets. And I was curious if you have a perspective on the future of intimacy coordinators being repped by talent agencies.
Well, it's very similar to traditional TV and film. So the intimacy coordinators are brought on by the production teams. But I will say that every single one of the productions that our talent is on, that's always been front and center. There are some of these themes where, believe it or not, some of these production companies, a lot of them, they're working with us. So our talent gets to read the script, just like traditional. They get to give their feedback. Sometimes we are on Zoom calls, even in the middle of the night sometimes with, another country. And we've got the producer, we've got the director, we'll have the intimacy coordinator and our talent. And we're talking about like any sensitive things that the actor sees in there. And then the actors will do one-on-one sessions with the intimacy coordinators, and they're always present. I have found that it's refreshing because people give it a bad rap, like they make it seem like these are being shot in someone's garage. These are huge productions with huge crews, and they're employing a huge sector of Los Angeles, and they're very professional. And so, yes, 100% intimacy coordinators are always 100%.
In terms of representation, are you an intimacy coordinator? Oh, okay. I think what's so nice about this is the Wild Wild West, as everybody's calling it. We just started representing, like maybe 6 months ago, the writers, directors, producers. I think it's a great idea because we are so close with all these production companies and they're always asking us. So we're also unofficially representing casting directors and getting them jobs. So I think like the sky's the limit. So come get in touch with us.
Question back here. Yep.
Thank you all for coming. It's been very informative, first and foremost. My question not really a question. I wanted to share with Adam that I saw IShowSpeed in the early days, and when he went across America, and he'll approach the most racist guy in Mississippi just like he would his best buddy, with complete innocence and like he doesn't know who the guy is or what he's about, and they have a real, genuine interaction. The other impact that what Heather said that they're making on the world is I saw a post that you might not have seen. People from Ghana are saying thank you to IShowSpeed because now after the United States and China, he's in Africa. And they're saying you have done more positive, you've shown Africa without just us with spears. You've shown rich people and buildings and culture and food, and he's having the most glorious time in Africa. And that's the big impact that some of these can make in real time. You're seeing someone fall in love with people, and nobody's seen these parts of Africa. So the guy was crying, saying, thank you. I think they'll give him an award.
I think a note on that too. I mean,
Yeah.
they went to Mount Rushmore. We made sure. I mean, anyone who knows the history of Mount Rushmore knows we did some pretty horrible things to the natives that lived there, and we made sure that the people that were giving him a tour of the area were like the Lakota tribe. When we were in D.C., we made sure he did not go to the White House, and instead, Congressman Maxwell Frost, who's actually here right now, was showing him a tour of the Capitol and told him, to tell his audience to go on vote.org and register to vote. And we crashed the website. And I think the other coolest part was we went to the American Museum of Natural History in New York, and we wanted him to spend the night there, but that wasn't allowed. But we had a private tour after it had closed, and I had never seen nobody in that museum, because anyone who's been there knows it's filled with so many people at any given point. And we just figured, hey, like in the same way that Sesame Workshop approached television by saying, hey, we have a responsibility to educate children using television. We're like, hey, children are watching this, so we can either make it not educational, or we can try to use this and give any educational moments that we can. So I completely agree with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much. It's really informative. So if we have content, if I've got partners who have content that want to do this, it isn't soap opera drama. So it is, humor, but it's working its way up. And sometimes it gets into, it's like women, people of color, queer women, people of color, women of color. So how do we, if we have a script, Do we need to get the material copywritten? Do we need to go, how do we protect the material? And then do we come to an agent like yourself? Who do we go to with the material? Or do we just, I mean, to me, the idea of just starting to shoot is like.
I think that's the right approach, though, is starting to shoot just like he did, because on the types that he's doing, that the question is monetization. And no one's going to jump on until they already see it going. And then all of a sudden they're going to go, ooh, let me see that. Yeah, you can answer that one.
For sure, and I think, this actually goes back to like Issa Rae doing this on YouTube back in the day, or High Maintenance back on Vimeo. Like, I think it's on us to figure out how can we inexpensively make something. The audience is pretty forgiving at this point. To be honest, I think on TikTok and Instagram specifically, if you actually shoot it on an Arri Alexa, you probably won't have an audience, because I think people don't see it really as authentic on these platforms. So people are really forgiving with the way that you make these things. I think what's most important is the talent on camera, the type of script you have, and if it does find that traction, and again, I would recommend on these social platforms at least something that's not serialized, something that's more repeatable, has a bunch of characters that we can get to know, but every episode is sort of same but different. If that can find an audience of its own, brands are pouring money into this space.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to go here, and then who are my back people? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then, oh my gosh, we're going to try to get through it. I saw you too. And then I'll come back up, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. Okay. And try to make your questions short, please.
Thanks, guys. Just to build off of the conversation around speed, because I agree with you, Adam. Like, it's so important to have. There's so much right-wing content flooding the airwaves right now, and the educational component is so important. I'm curious, like, taking the next step, is it possible to also, like, we all know this country is in a really terrible moment right now. Like, what do we do to actually get impact or action? Like, can we put speed in Minneapolis right now? Like, what is that next thing? How do we actually make an impact with this?
I mean, one part is like, this is where I think my big obsession right now is like, how do we find more role models for young people? I'm pretty depressed at the state of I couldn't think of a good role model for young people. I think speed is probably the closest we have to it, and even him I'm frustrated with sometimes. So I think the answer is we need more people in this space who want to talk to young people. When I look at the alt-right streamers that do exist, I see people that are willing to have a conversation with young people that we're not wanting to have ourselves. When Nick Fuentes is looking at young men and saying, hey, I'm you. I also couldn't get a job. I also didn't go to school. I also have never had sex. I also am addicted to playing video games. I'm you. That resonates with young men. And the issue is he's making them sit in this resentment of hatred towards women and the people around them, instead of saying, hey, maybe you weren't raised right, and actually we need to set you up straight to have a better life for yourself. And we don't have enough people that are willing to push them back. So something that I do, I spend a lot of time making fake TikTok accounts where I literally tell it I'm 14 years old, just because I want to see, hey, if I follow Aiden Ross and Kai Cenat and these people, what will happen in my feed? It is almost immediately a white nationalist, Christian nationalist feed. These young men are enveloped in hatred and racism and homophobia. And if you're a 14-year-old kid, that's cool. That's punk rock to them now. You know, they think liking Hitler is cool. They think being a Nazi is cool. So it's on us to, first of all, raise them right. It's on us to also limit their use of these platforms when we can. But it's on all of us to be making content on these platforms that actually speak the truth.
Amen. I love that, because that to me is moving forward. That to me is Impact Lounge. Yes, sadness. Okay, moving forward, and that is what we're about here, is what you do next. 2 more questions back here, then I'm going to come up to the front.
Awesome, thanks. I was wondering if you could share anything about the financials in terms of what do you think is reasonable to be spending in production costs for an episode or a whole show? And then do you only focus on monetizing on the social media platforms, or are there other ways to monetize?
So, I mean, you really can go as cheap as you like, to be honest. It really depends on the complexity of the format. Girl Room, thankfully we have a partner on. It's a real renovation show, and honestly, news to me when I was making it, renovation shows are really hard to make and can be pretty costly. Like, that involves like a 12-person crew that's going and making it. Still probably 1/10 of what it would be if it was a TV show. But when I think of a show like Subway Takes, I mean, that's really just 2 Sony FX3s. They shoot 10 episodes in an afternoon. It takes an hour for them to do that. And they post on a daily basis and get about 2 million views of video. So it really can be as expensive or as inexpensive as you like. In terms of sort of the monetization, again, we at this point are mostly focused on even starting these shows with brands in the first place. I myself will only do it if I think there's something good to make that I'm proud of us to put our name on. I'm very anti-slop in 2026, and I want to make sure that like we're really mindful of what we're putting into people's heads. But brands are really wanting to be in this space, and there are really great partners that do exist out there.
Hello, hi. I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm from Ohio, and we have a school that we converted into a soundstage studio. And so, like, we have schools, hospitals, and everything. And we've already had, like, verticals coming in there. And so, like, they're coming in kind of, like, fast and hot. And so, just kind of let you know that, you know, like, yeah, it's, like, really at the beginning, right? There's trying to figure out how do we get the most out of bang for our buck, you know, and everything. And, you know, we offer everything to one-stop shop kind of thing. But, you know, like, for as a studio, it's, like, you know, these verticals, it's, like, it's very, very different. You know what I mean? So it's, like, how do you guys, you know, see that kind of situation? How that's gonna like help out with the content? Because we're always trying to like help push the you know, like the messaging and everything too. You know, you know, helping everybody kind of push their vision.
So are you thinking how are folks going to use different spaces, different places around the country, just like you're refurbishing a school to do so?
Yeah, because the indie market, you know, like how do people who want to get their vision, their story out there, how do they tell it? Because it's like it's on a different budget now. It's like, you know, like now everybody has a bigger and better opportunity to do that.
So how do folks get their story out there if they're in one of these places?
I mean, I know that for the vertical microdramas on our side, most of them are filming in established areas because they go so fast. So from start to like where you're even thinking about them to where they end up on the screen is 2 months. So they are mostly staying in LA. They're not flying out. They're not even taking advantage of the tax credits because they're going so fast. And they're such small budgets, under 200,000 generally.
Hey, thank you. You know, I was wondering, so what are the current strong demos that you're seeing? And over the next 2 years, as this grows, what do you see as the new demos that are going to be growing? What are the surprising demos?
Okay, so for us, you know, it is the females make up about 80% of the audience. They are, like Anita said, stretching it to younger audiences, but they know that they don't pay. So something interesting has started happening. Maybelline is doing a big promo with Real Short. So they're showing vertical commercials shot vertically, and they're paying advertising, which is the old TV model. So that made me like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting, instead of these freaking coins that you have to buy and you don't know how many you're gonna need to watch the whole episode. So I think that as the advertising space really starts taking over, that's what's going to expand the demographic, because it's going to go younger for that. And I think it's gonna go younger before it goes male.
I think we also gloss over the word soap opera. Like, let's not forget where soap operas came from. It was soap companies who wanted to market to women, and they wanted to figure out what type of content to entertain them. So it's everything that's old is new again.
Exactly. They should have done sci-fi. That is what women want. And rom-coms. That's fine. And also action films. There you go. I've solved that for them. Okay, there you go.
Hi, this question is more for you, Adam. As you know, as a creator, a woman creator of color, I do travel content, and I am like, especially right now, given what's going on in the world, especially in the U.S., how can I navigate this battle in my head about wanting to be on TikTok specifically and wanting to get the hell out of it because of the privacy policy, the geotagging, you know, the stuff with the immigrant community. I mean, that's my community. And I just, like, yesterday, I'm like, fuck TikTok. I'm going to delete it. And I did. And now I'm here and I'm like, oh, maybe I should be on TikTok again. So it's like, it's this constant battle. And I want to succeed and I want to do all this stuff, but I also have like this social responsibility and I just feel torn. That's a lot.
I couldn't feel your pain more. I think the answer is like consume less, create more. You know, these are platforms that we want to use our voice to find a larger audience. We should not be building our community on them. You know, these platforms are owned by our enemies. They are not they're not our friends, you know, but we do need to use them to amplify our voices. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm someone who like I do not allow any app to have my location. I, even just turn off notifications. 'Cause I don't even want them turning my brain into brain rot itself. But I think even sometimes turning comments off can be helpful, just because it can end up on the wrong side of the feed, and then you're filled with so much hatred in your DMs, which I think is just awful. So I think doing anything that would protect your mind space and creating that content.
Okay. All right. I know we only have so many minutes left, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm so sorry.
I will try to keep this quick. Hi, so this question is for everybody as far as how you manage your talent. Since the output is so quick, and what steps are you taking with your talent to manage their mental health, their physical health as they're doing these things, especially Adam with your guy who's doing like the 24-hour thing? Like, how are you, like, what is your responsibility as the CEO of this company to like make sure that he's taken care of?
So that was a project I was brought in just as like a producer to help a friend of mine who works for him full time. And to be honest, I was worried about my mental health working in that project. I've never experienced, 35 days in a row, 24 hours a day. What's different about him is he grew up in this world. And so like, he's a different kind of human at this point. Like, I think it happens with a lot of these younger kids. Like their sense of reality is completely different than ours. It's almost like a video game to them. And when you're 20 and you have 160 million followers and basically the entire world is being opened up for you just because your camera's on, of course your view of reality is going to be a little different than what you and I live with on a daily basis. I think on our other talent, who are also sometimes being picked off the street, and we're like, hey, we really see something in you, and overnight there can be millions of views on this. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And I think the only good part is we're all really proud of the thing that we're creating. So that is the outcome that we want. But it is taking a lot of steps to make sure, like, hey, let's do this safely. Let's not go crazy here and make sure that you're doing pretty okay.
We're like actually scaling back a little bit on having our talent go to some of these other countries, because the way that they operate is very different than the United States. We have a lot of safeguards put in place, and personally, we pay a lot of attention to contracts, and we do a lot of contract negotiations to make sure that we're protecting our actors. We're making sure that that there is proper overtime. We talk to each actor individually, and some actors are like, I don't want to do any overtime because it's a 12-hour day. And sometimes they could very likely go into 14-hour days and things like that, and they're working, oftentimes, 8, 9, 10 days on set. And so we're making sure, that they have their days off, and we're making sure that they are taken care of. And we're also sometimes putting up guardrails for them and saying, like, you're getting sought after, like solidly booked, off one set and onto another. And sometimes we push back a little bit and say, hey, let's do a little bit of a breather, let's do a little bit of a break, and it's going to be there, and so making sure that we're not the type of agency that's going to just be like, hey, the money is there, like, let's just overbook you and run them, tirelessly. We really are passionate about our people. We adore each and every one of our people. We're extremely close to our talent. We talk to a lot of them like almost every single day. We do this amazing group chat. There's another agent.
My phone is going off.
Yeah. There's 3 of us that actually man the vertical space, and we do a great text thread. We involve their managers, and we're just constantly talking to them about their experiences, and we get a lot of referrals because a lot of the actors say like they have never had such hands-on agents.
We did have a girl go to, she went to China to film, and we put it in there that she wasn't allowed to go over 14 hours. And then we also said she needed a 12-hour turnaround, and that her hotel needed to be close, because sometimes they put you in a hotel an hour away. And she was working, but she didn't tell us, she was working 18-hour days, back to back to back to back. And then they had put her in a hotel further because the hotel they gave her was like filthy. And then we asked for their overtime. And we got on a Zoom with the guy, and he hung up on us on Zoom for asking for overtime. So that one, which is a major U.S. app, not a U.S. app. Their app is big in the United States. We wrote to the app, and we told them what was going on, and they are on our list of none of our talent will ever work for them again. And we ended up getting her paid, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I bet that's hard. Okay, lightning round, 3 questions. Lightning.
That dovetails into my question. I've been in the business for a long time. I'll age myself, but unions, the question of unions, because if there's so much money flowing into this, and also safety and health of your people, like, where is that going to play in? And I know some bigger actors are starting to do that. And also horror. Can you speak to horror and short form content?
Yeah,
SAG is involved. There is a contract. It's fine, but the only issue is the speed and the manpower. There's one person doing the vertical department at SAG, and that's not enough, and especially at the turnaround. And then there's a couple other little provisions. They're not listening to the apps as to why you're going to get them to use it. So until SAG has a very meaningful conversation and actually takes it on, they're not going to use them. There were 2 that are recently using them, and that's because they're having A-list American stars, Taye Diggs, James Franco, and that's the only reason. So hopefully SAG will get on board, because otherwise, the crew, it's the same thing. They're too, and it's so expensive to shoot in LA with an LA crew, and that just has made a lot of. I mean, honestly, there's crew members on there that I know are union, and there's actors that we know are union, and everyone just kind of goes like that because people are working.
I'd love for unions to figure out how they can be more, part of the space.
I wrote it down. So
Okay, so 2 questions, super quick, and then we'll wrap.
Hi, I represent Spill, which is an online fandom engine that focuses on traditionally underrepresented communities with nearly 1 million downloads. Our model is a digital movie theater so that we can do what Letterboxd did for video rentals. We are especially interested in burgeoning creators who may not already have 500,000 followers. I would like to talk to you later because we are the buzz generator. The question is, how do we find those who, like Speed, already don't have a bazillion followers, but want the exposure, want to get their numbers up, and because we are a safer space, we are built by multicultural people, we don't have the concerns of TikTok, Instagram, and so on.
Great question. I think, something that even I've thought a lot about is instead of spending so much time being on these platforms searching for that talent, how do you let them know that you're a place for them to go to? And that way they're coming and finding you. And so that might just be as simple as having people like yourself on camera talking about the platform that you have and the opportunity that it exists for these creators so that they're finding you.
Hi, my name is Sam Dummett, and we are developing content for this space. I'm a union actor. We're writers, producers, but we have celebrity talent that is interested in entering into this space where we sort of touched on it already. It's non-union. Do you represent union talent, and let's find a way to navigate that into the space?
Slowly but surely, there are starting to be some breakdowns that we're seeing, far and few between, but absolutely they are starting to peak out there. So again, I think as this space adopts more, it's absolutely going to pick up with the union projects.
Yeah, and I would love to talk to you more too, because we are working with a U.S. company. So the U.S. companies are a lot different the way they're approaching these. They are more inclusive with diversity, which is really important, and the Chinese apps have not been. So some of the ones that we're doing are that way, and we are with that particular platform doing a couple union ones because the plan is to bring in A-list stars with these vertical stars, and then at the same time also do traditional media with the vertical stars along with A-list stars.
Love it. Excellent. Well, we finished right on time, you guys. Nice work. Thank you so much for everyone who came today. I hope you guys are as excited as I am about all this, because I see it's going to be fluid. It's a growing area. It's going to be evolving, and we can help it evolve. And also, this is a huge plug for it. Thank you for coming to the Impact Lounge, but we have a lot more programming. So make sure you check it out, and really appreciate you.